Welcome to the Silver Screen Project, where we look back at a series of films in anticipation of an exciting new cinema release.
We're now hyping up to see Matt Reeves' The Batman. Last time around we watched Batman Begins. So this time we're going to look at The Dark Knight.
That's right. The kind of, seminal superhero film in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
a lot of people's favourite superhero film.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Dark Knight,
I
Sam?
think it was very good.
It is very good, isn't it?
It was very good.
Controversially, hot take,
Yeah.
The Dark Knight's good.
I think one of the things you notice from the start, and we can talk about the opening scene in a moment, but the kind of adrenaline pumping action kind of goes throughout, and the change in score from Hans Zimmer is much more kind of, it's more what we know him as now kind of thing.
Yes.
Like this and Inception, it's very kind of, I don't know what you call it, like metronomic, like drumming kind of.
And just like a constant like high-pitched sound kind of thing, which it starts with in the opening scene.
I do think like a negative, it's almost too influential. Like there was a lot of copycat films trying to ape the tone after
which
this.
Kind of built on the first one as well. We mentioned last time round that it's like gritty superhero film, and then they're like, oh yeah, gritty superhero films, that's the way to go.
They almost take it even further in this one, which everyone else kind of uses that formula from here on, at least until kind of the MCU kind of finds its stride, and then that's the new template to use after this.
Yeah, definitely. We mentioned off the cuff, the opening scene is brilliant. It's one of like the all-time great iconic opening scenes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like it is just brilliant.
It's really great because you kind of have no idea what's going on. It is a cold open, effectively.
Yeah.
But it's very clever storytelling, and you can kind of pick up what's going on as it goes. And rewatching it back, you see much more.
And it introduces the character that everybody knows, but in a way you're like, oh yeah, it's the Joker.
Yeah.
Like it's also like he's already the Joker. It's not like a build up. He's already established as the Joker.
Because we had the tease at the end of the last film that we mentioned, and then his full entrance when he comes into the meeting of the crime bosses is again like a standout moment.
Iconic scene.
You see all the mannerisms, he's even doing like bad jokes, which like even because it's very like he's not a jokester Joker, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's
he's funny sort of
thing.
He's
funny to us, and
like, how do I make the pencil disappear?
The pencil trick is fantastic.
Quite often people, when they talk about the film, the stand-up point is the Joker and Heath Ledger's performance. There's not too much to say. He is brilliant. Obviously it's been spoken about a million times that people were unsure about the casting because he's the cowboy from Brokeback Mountain.
Or from 10 Things I Hate About You. Or A Knight's Tale, I think, as well.
It's sad. It's his last film, but also because I would like to have seen him expand even more. Past like the rom-com actor, because we now see, holy shit, this guy can act.
I mean, even as this character, it does feel. It's one of my kind of, I would say, negatives, but they're not really negatives, which I might as well mention now, is it's such a shame that we didn't get to see more of this character. Even the way it ends with him when he's captured, and it's like, he even says, this is the start of like an ongoing journey between us. And it's like, but it's not, and it's so bittersweet. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's funny how like before a lot of people were reluctant to take on the role because Jack Nicholson was so iconic. And Cesar Romero in the classic. But Heath Ledger's Joker is completely different from what we've seen on screen, but is now the seminal Joker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when Jared Leto people were like, oh, he's not anything like that.
But he's doing a version of this, isn't he, really?
Yeah, I feel like had the Dark Knight films not happened, Jared Leto's Joker may have been better received.
Yeah, but then would he have done the same thing without Heath Ledger's? It's one of those questions, really. But generally the Joker is fantastic. Like the party scene, why so serious? The tryouts part, I remember being so tense when I first watched it.
Even like when he's standing in the road as Batman's hurtling towards him on the bike, and then jumps off the last second.
All the like Agent of Chaos,
it's the whole like he genuinely doesn't care if he lives or dies. He's just going along for the ride.
It's really like enthralling. Like you just can't help but be like encapsulated.
On the joke, one thing that always does kind of make me laugh is that, as you say, he's this Agent of Chaos, but his plan that unravels in this film is extremely complex and deeply planned out. That kind of goes against what you see what the character's meant to be. But
Yeah.
actually, it's a very convoluted plan.
But it's interesting how they've made a conscious decision to make a lot of it mysterious. So we don't ever see the planning. We
Yeah.
don't ever see anything from his side of things. Whereas
Yeah.
with someone like Jared Leto later, we see a lot of him on his own, which
Yeah.
is a valid, interpretation. It's
Yeah.
interesting to see the villain, their process and that. But with this, it's very much we see the actions rather than the preparation.
It adds to the character
It really
more.
does. Even the origin is so. People have speculated, oh, he was a soldier and stuff, but it's so unclear and it's intentionally that way.
It's great. And then we've also got Two-Face.
Yeah. Harvey
And the
Dent.
main thing I take from that, Harvey Dent as a character before Two-Face is brilliant.
Really good.
Like,
yeah.
he plays it so well of like, actually, this really confident lawyer who can do the dark stuff if he needs to, but actually has a proper good morals and like is all about justice.
I think all the stuff with him and Bruce Wayne, they're very competitive, especially when it comes to Rachel.
Yeah. And they have the dinner scene which really convinces Bruce that actually this guy is the guy that Gotham needs. And I do love the court scene where he gets like the entire mob in the court, and it's so ridiculous, but it's like it's just kind of him making a statement, being like, yeah, this is it.
Well, something I noticed on this rewatch is how much they hinge on if anything is brought up with Harvey as being a negative, they'll be freed onto the streets. And that's why there's so much pressure on Batman taking the rap at the end.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really appreciated it as much in previous watching.
But the thing is, for the most part, Harvey is everything that the public thinks he is.
I do think his turn is a little bit kind of rushed. I understand the parts where he's avenging Rachel and stuff, but I feel like because there's a lot in this film, and they
could have
2
done
hours
a bit
40,
more on
2 hours
the Rachel's
30.
side of stuff to make it a bit more believable.
And that's probably my only real negative with him. I think that there's a lot of stuff with moral choices. There's a lot of twos in this, which plays well into the Two-Face stuff. Even, there's the Rachel and Harvey with the bombs, which we can talk about in a bit. There's the ferries at the end,
ferries.
and then obviously there's Two-Face himself doing lots of
like his coin
flipping
and
and
flip.
stuff.
Yeah.
Thematically, it works very well.
Yes, it does. The boat scene. The boat scene is quite contrived if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I do still like it. And the moment when like the prisoner eventually grabs the detonator and throws it out the window, you're just like, fuck yeah. Because you genuinely don't know what he's going to do. And everyone's panicked. It really creates a sense of like panic.
And it's a good kind of social experiment kind of thing. You hear about like Stanford prison experiment, stuff like that. It's like the Joker doing like a life or death experiment to try and show that people are morally corrupt, but it doesn't work out kind of thing.
It's almost that scene works without Batman. It's in an iconic Batman film, but all that kind of stuff around it isn't really to do with Batman. It's a social experiment, as you said. One thing that stood out to me that I always love, which isn't directly involved in the plot, is when the guy who works for Wayne Industries goes to Lucius Fox and is like, I know Bruce Wayne's Batman. And it's just when Lucius Fox is like, wait, you're telling me
he's the most powerful man in the world.
He's the most powerful man in the world is secretly at night beating people up. And you're planning to blackmail this man?
Yeah, so I like that because it's a good way of highlighting, there's a term for it, highlighting a plot point and showing that there is a way around it. Because from the first one, you could go, right, all this Wayne tech is out there now. Someone's got to make the link. But it's like,
someone does.
But why would they be able to take it any further?
Like it's literally just a side point. And there would have been people be like, oh, people would figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. It's like, yeah, here's why that's not a thing.
I saw a thing that I don't know if it's a legitimate thing from Christopher Nolan or from screenwriters, but his name is Mr. Reese, and it's supposed to be like mysteries, like a bit of like a allusion
like
to
the
like
Riddler.
Yeah. Apparently that's kind of where it's going there. Like he's their version of it, even though he's just like this weird sniveling guy.
He could have become the Riddler. I'd see that.
Mr. Reese.
And I think like last time we talked about Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's again good at this.
Yeah.
Like his fake death is genuinely believable at the time. It's like a hero sacrifice. And then when he comes back and it's like, fuck yeah. Commissioner Gordon.
And now he's Commissioner Gordon. It's good to see them working together almost straight from the start, which is good because it ended with the bat signal with him giving them the Joker card from the previous one. I like, well, everyone knows the Some men just want to watch the world burn monologue from Michael
Yes.
Caine, but it's fantastic. Stands up really well.
And the other Commissioner Gordon's like,
yeah,
he's the hero Gotham
I
deserves,
think
but he's not the
that's
one
a
he
bit.
needs right now. I still love that.
I think it's a bit ranty and it goes on. It's a bit up and
It
down.
is, and it's narrated like over a scene of Batman getting away, but like
Yeah.
it's still fun. And the fact that people can still quote that today,
Yeah.
like what,
even
13,
in like
14
even
years
a
later?
slight paraphrasing of it, probably.
Yeah.
Scarecrow makes a cameo at the start.
Yeah, he does. I was gonna say, he was the first. Cillian Murphy was the first actor to reprise a villain in multiple, which kind of surprises me. Obviously, Cesar Romero would have been in the TV show and the films.
Yeah,
but
there was only
two films.
Yeah.
And he comes back again in the third one.
He does,
which we'll get to next time.
I think it's nice to see some continuity and see that the world carries on.
It builds a universe a bit instead of having it just stand
Which
alone.
is another thing with the whole Heath Ledger not being able to come back. It feels like the universe is kind of stilted a little bit to me.
Yeah.
I know part of that's because of the Dent Act and because Batman for 8 years or whatever is out of action. It works. They've written around it, but it would have been nice to skip ahead and see maybe there were some villains we didn't see on screen. And the Scarecrow is the way of doing that without having to kind of commit to it.
One thing that, so we were like, what, 14 when this came out? I remember this being the first time I ever noticed a film doing something specifically for the Chinese market.
Right, okay,
in that this is the first time
Kong,
Batman ever leaves Gotham in any of the films.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's
really fun,
good.
But I remember seeing it at the time being like, oh, he's going to Hong Kong because this film is going to get released in China and they want it to do well. Which is the only reason that scene really happens. Like, he could have stayed in America and they got him.
Yeah.
But it is fun. It's almost like the start. What James Bond film is it where they're like in the skyscraper and it's all the glass panels and mirrors and stuff?
Yeah.
It's similar to that.
One of the latest ones, yeah.
But it's a fun scene. But I do like it. Really just stuck with me being like, oh yeah, this is China, isn't it?
Yeah. We mentioned earlier it's the interrogation scene with Joker and Batman, which is now iconic.
Yeah, it's very
which
good.
Leads then into the double bomb scenario with Rachel, with Harvey, and he has to make the choice. And obviously, we know that he goes to what he thinks is Rachel, and it's actually Harvey. It's all been very well planned.
Doesn't he go to Harvey intentionally?
No, he thinks he's going to Rachel, but they've swapped it round.
Right.
And I realised watching it again, it's because in the party scene, he sees that he leaps after Rachel, and he ignores the Joker, doesn't arrest him, and instead does that. So he's you know, as you say, it's very well planned. It's very intense. I think that scene. I think it's probably one of the most shocking scenes throughout.
That's the thing. This film has got several climaxes where usually it'd build up to one thing, but like that, the boat, and then like the actual bit where he captures him at the end,
and then even the Two-Face stuff,
and the Two-Face stuff, like it's got multiple but you don't notice it. It's one of those, like Christopher Nolan has certain things that he does that like usually you'd criticize, but he does it so well that you like. His films are known for like over the top exposition that goes on for a while.
Yeah,
but you don't notice in a lot of his films he does it well.
I do think on previous watches, I felt it kind of loses its focus a little bit towards the end. Yeah, but I don't think it's too much. It's just it kind of loses its focus. I don't know how else to say it really. But
yeah, see, I like consider we've now watched the first two of this.
Yeah.
I still not sure if I rate this higher than Batman Begins. I think because it gets a bit convoluted and loses. I think Batman Begins is almost flawless as an origin.
Focused. I think the tone is quite drastically different. I think this is much more kind of gritty, less fantastical. We don't have any of the League of Shadows stuff. Even we mentioned last week the Narrows, which is the very kind of caricature kind of cartoony slums of Gotham. There's none of that in this. It's very grounded. A couple of things that I didn't particularly like. The Batman and Rachel falling on the car doesn't make any sense still. He doesn't put his cape out. He's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what's supposed to have happened there. The fingerprint gun thing still doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh yeah,
I've tried to understand that, and I'm sure if I watched a video,
it doesn't make sense. It is a flaw because various people have done like essays.
I'm sure.
About
I was going to look into it, but I thought I'm either going to understand it or I'm not. But to the viewing public, as I felt I was watching it, it didn't make sense to me.
Well, the thing is, like, fundamentally, it's ignoring the shell of the bullet. Like, there wouldn't be a fingerprint on the bullet that he's recreating.
That's very true. Yeah.
The
underground bat base is fine, but I kind of miss having the proper bat cave. It makes sense, I suppose. He's closer to the action, but it seems like a strange choice. It seems like a limitation on the filming rather than
it's just to think, like, just do the back. And they made the Batcave for the first film. They literally made
it was
the
on
entire
a big set, wasn't it? Because the thing is, he's not even coming from his penthouse straight to it. He has to drive to this building
to, like, the docks or something.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. The suit, what do you reckon about the new suit?
I don't notice suits that. Yeah, I liked it. I like it. Still has the classic Batman thing that comes up constantly, that he can't really turn his neck.
Well, they make the adjustment with this one.
Which this one does better.
I don't like the head. I think it's too thin. I think Christian Bale's got quite a slim head, and you can notice that more. In the Batman Begins, it's much more of a thick necked kind of look.
Yeah.
And he was bulkier in that film anyway.
Yeah, he was. He didn't have to do as much training as he did for this one. But yeah, have you got any trivia bits?
Yeah, I mean, one was to do with the amount of money this made. I don't know if you saw anything.
Yeah,
about
that's the same thing I noted down.
Yeah,
the first comic book movie to make $1 billion.
Yeah,
which is kind of mental, as that's like happens 2 or 3 times a year these days.
That's right. Yeah, and it made more money than Batman Begins in entire domestic run in the first 6 days of release.
Wow!
So the hype was like truly real.
You could say this is the film that kicked off superhero films being like dominating the market.
Yeah, totally. Because the MCU started the same year.
Yeah, this was the same year as Iron Man, which kicked off the MCU. You could say between the two of them, they kicked off the superhero dominance of modern cinema.
Yeah.
But this was just a huge factor in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's good. So I'll ask you the question. Does this make you more hyped for Matt Reeves' The Batman? Prod yes or prod no?
Prod yes, absolutely.
Prod
yeah.
Yes.
I think it'd be hard to make me less hyped, to be honest.
It's just like the more Batman stuff I see, the more I get excited for it.
I think if we're doing a longer series, we might get fatigue and go, oh, I'm really not looking forward to, I don't know, insert long franchise here. Or maybe Fantastic Beasts if we end up doing that.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But generally, yeah,
it helps that we're watching some brilliant films, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to The Batman. And I'm quite looking forward to looking at The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I haven't watched it too much, so I'm excited to revisit that.
Yeah. But I think that's all I've really got to say about The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week for The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes. See you next week.
Bye.